Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content. Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is,
not like a yacht today. They could have fallen off the mast. They could have died of scurvy. A lot of the seamen died, and now we're a generation that is addicted to drugs and pornography. And the president yesterday says that we can be the generation that ends the opioid epidemic. That's a good thing, right? No, you're wrong, not according to the vermin in the media. If you can believe what I'm about to tell you, Trump comes out as the first president to try to end the opioid epidemic, and the rats, the sewer rats in the media with suits and ties and dirty dresses, the sewer rats in the media say it's not enough. Lydia, why didn't he do more, Lydia? We've interviewed some heroin addicts who said they're glad to hear it, but the president has not gone far enough. Well, how far did Obama go in ending the opioid epidemic? Like nowhere? He didn't even lift a toe. So no matter what Mr. Trump does, these sewer rats in the media will say he didn't do enough, or he was wrong, or he did this, he did that. I could go on all day long about my hatred. It's becoming not just distaste, anger, rage. It's absolute hatred for these sewer rats in the media. They have destroyed the world, and now they're destroying the country. They are innocent and just doing it for fun. But you are instead of a newsman. He has the same mentality as a tie salesman, as far as I'm concerned. One question after the other, giving them away. It's unbelievable to me. So the president says, okay, we're going to be the first generation that ends the opioid epidemic, and they attack him, even though no other president tried to do it like this. Listen to the president in clip one, will you please?
Beyond the shocking death toll, the terrible measure of the opioid crisis includes the families ripped apart, and for many communities, a generation of lost potential and opportunity. This epidemic is a national health emergency. Unlike many of us we've seen in our lifetimes, nobody has seen anything like what's going on now. As Americans, we cannot allow this to continue. It is time to liberate our communities from this scourge of drug addiction. Never been this way. We can be the generation that ends the opioid epidemic. We can do it.
Well, that is right. And, of course, what you start with is handcuffs and an FBI task force in all of the glass buildings in Connecticut that sell drugs. Oh, I'm not talking about the street gangs. They're low level compared to the pharmaceutical companies that make OxyContin. Can anyone explain to me why the manufacturer of OxyContin is not in handcuffs? I can answer the question. Because their names are on the board of every museum in the world. They bought their way to the top, as has been said many times and many different ways. In America, what is red in the first generation becomes red, white, and blue in the third generation. In other words, that built on blood then becomes patriotic 2 generations later. It's sickening to me that those who manufacture OxyContin are not stopped. Tell me why, if let's say they're making 1 billion let's say there's 1 billion prescriptions for drugs a year. I'm making up a number. 1 billion prescriptions for OxyContin, and each prescription contains 10 pills. So that's 10 billion pills. And the company that makes it is making 30 billion pills. Tell me why the family in charge of that company is not in prison. Answer. Why? Take a look at your Congress and you'll have your answer. That's all. What do you think a lobbyist is? Now, you may not know this, but I've known it from the beginning, and I boasted about it from the beginning. No, it's not about me. It's about the president. Listen to this, because he's the only president in modern American history who can say this. Wolf Blitzer, you crawling insect, you. Listen to 05, you crawling insects in the media.
I learned myself. I had a brother, Fred. Great guy. Best-looking guy. Best personality. Much better than mine. But he had a problem. He had a problem with alcohol. And he would tell me, don't drink. Don't drink. He was substantially older, and I listened to him, and I respected. But he would constantly tell me, don't drink. He'd also add, don't smoke. But he would say it over and over and over again. And to this day, I've never had a drink. And I have no longing for it. I have no interest in it. To this day, I've never had a cigarette. Don't worry, those are only two of my good things. I don't want to tell you about the bad thing. There's plenty of bad things, too. But he really helped me.
So here is a president who has never had a drink and doesn't smoke, who should be a role model if we had, other than what we have in the media, which are sewer rats disguised as objective reporters. It's sickening to me. He is a great role model, but because of the sewer rats in the media, they turn him into Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini. You throw in anyone you want. And that is because most of the people in the media are drug addicts. I don't think you understand to what extent drug addiction pervades the media. Now, we've been hearing about the sex things that's going on in the media. We've been hearing about one after the other getting busted for this, for doing that. That's another lie, by the way. It's another big story that I want to talk about. And I'll throw this question out right now before I get back to the drug question. Women only. Do you believe all the women who are saying that they were molested or sexually assaulted by people in the media? Do you believe them all? I mean, it's just laughable on the face of it to think that all of them are telling the truth. When many of these women who are coming forward, let us put it to you this way, are not vestal virgins, either in their souls or in their bodies. Most of them would strip naked on Sunset Boulevard in front of a Cub Scout troop in order to get on the front of page 6 to get some ink in the New York Post. So now all of a sudden, oh, George Bush was in a wheelchair, but he touched my leg. The guy's paralyzed, for God's sakes. Why would you even run a story like that unless you're a sewer rat? Why? Because Bush is a Republican and an American patriot. And so that's why the sewer rats would run that story. There used to be a time that they would say, we're not going to run something like that. There's no verification. Those days are over. The days are over. So I wanted to go back to a more fundamental question. And this week we had some pretty hot questions on the show, which were, why is America fascinated with gangsters? Are you a sugar baby? Where is the Albert Einstein or Jonas Salk amongst the Jewish people of our time? Who embarrasses you the most in your own ethnicity? Why are we seeing God mentioned more than ever before? What happened to logic and reason on college campuses? And what has Trump done to make you think you hate him so much? Those were the questions that caught fire on the show this week. And again, the phone number is 855-407-28. But here's a little factoid coming along. I'm going to ask you a question as if I'm a teacher in a school, in a college, doesn't matter. And I'm going to say to you, which nation do you think has the highest rate of consumption of illegal drugs? Listen to me. Which nation consumes the highest amount of illegal drugs per capita? You're going to be shocked by the answers. It's not the United States of America. And I'll give it to you. I'll break it down by nation. Don't even call on that because you're just going to Google it and it's going to be boring and all you want is a free copy of God, Faith, and Reason. You know, the days of asking a question and expecting you to wait for an answer are over. With Google now, everyone's an Albert Einstein in 3 seconds. Don't call on that. I'll give you the answers myself. Clint, don't take any calls on the nation thing because they looked it up on Google already. Phone number 855-407-282. So I wanted to go to the most fundamental question of what is freedom. Because we keep hearing the term bandied about by conservatives, which is they're selling freedom. Freedom is their stock and trade. That somehow they know what freedom is. No one else ever heard of the word. It was not invented before they came along. No one ever heard of freedom. No one knows what freedom is. They got the book on freedom. No one else knows what freedom is. So I'm going to ask you, what is freedom? Because if we are a free nation, as we think we are, if we are the freest nation on earth, then why are we enslaved by drugs, pornography, and other addictions? If we're so free, then why are there so many drug addicts and alcohol addicts? If we're so free, why are we so addicted to pornography? And then I keep hearing that if you're really free, you're anti-government. Really? Is that true? So you want anarchy now? Who do you want running the streets? The criminal gangs? Well, they say, no, I don't mean free of all government. We need the police. Why, we love the men in blue. Why, we support them. Do you? What else do you support in government? Do you support red lights, yellow lights, and green lights on the highway and stop signs? Why, yes, we support those things. Oh, so you support that. Well, do you support anything else in the government? Well, yes, but we believe in limited government. We're anti-big government. We are the freedom-loving Americans, the patriots. We're the great Americans, and the others are all bad. Okay, so what do you mean you don't believe in government? Certainly you have to have limited government, don't you? Well, if you have a limited government, so you agree that there needs to be some government. So if you agree there has to be some government, we have to decide as the governed what we want governed and what we want controlled. That's the real question, Plato, isn't it? Yeah, so therefore, Glaucon, what do we do next? Well, Glaucon says what we have to do next is arrest all the pornographers and ban all pornography and seize all the assets of all the pornographers that they have accrued over the last 30 years, even if they've hidden the money with their children, grandchildren, grandmothers, or in the Cayman Islands. Seize all of their money, use all of the money for pornography rehabilitation, and put the rest of them in prison for the rest of their lives. I know you're applauding inside your hearts. Now we'll go down the next step. What do you do about the drug addiction problem? Well, you could spend money on treatment from today until tomorrow. It's not going to have much of an effect. Everybody knows the recidivism rate on drug treatment is very, very high. Okay, and there's a reason for it. The real answer is not treating drug addiction. The real answer is stopping the flood of drugs into America. I told you many years ago I went to Malaysia, and I was shocked when I was driving in from the airport at Kuala Lumpur to see a gigantic billboard the size of an apartment building that said, using drugs in Malaysia is punishable by death. It was very clear that there was a real campaign to stop the use of drugs in Malaysia, and they punished drug dealers by killing them, and there was a reason for it, because they were near the Golden Triangle where drugs are produced. And they knew that the entire nation would be addicted to drugs unless they cracked down on the drug dealers. I don't hear anyone talking about any of these things, by the way. So these are some of the questions that I'm thinking about. And if you care to join the conversation today on the Savage Nation Friday edition, I will give you the answer in a moment of which countries consume the largest amount of illegal drugs. You probably will be shocked by the answer because it is not the United States of America. And I will also explain to you not only which countries consume the highest amount of illegal drugs, the largest quantity of illegal drugs, but the drugs they are consuming. You'll be shocked when you hear the answer. Trust me, it's worth waiting for. Back in a minute on the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. This is White Rabbit.
And one pill makes you small. And the ones that mother gives you don't do anything at all. Go ask Alice.
So who do you blame for the drug epidemic? Well, everybody. It's that simple. Blame everybody but the president. Now, Nancy Reagan, to her credit, had a campaign called Just Say No. It had some effect upon an entire generation who learned to just say no to the scum of the earth who were trying to get him to try a marijuana cigarette or a little cocaine or God knows what else. It worked to a certain extent. It probably saved a lot of lives. So now we have a president who was a conservative, who was being attacked by the sigmoid colognes in his own party. That's actually elevating him too high up the channel. But since this is a family show, I will call them the sigmoid colons of the body politic. I'd rather call them something else. Can you imagine that his own party is acting like worse than his worst enemies? Well, I'm shocked by it, right? I didn't write about it in Trump's War. I think I'll tell you one minute, for 1 second now, at the risk of your displeasure, what I predicted in Trump's War, which is why it's still selling wildly. What did I say? I said Trump faces relentless opposition from special interests in both parties who stand to lose trillions if Trump's America First policies become the law of the land. Not only will Trump have to overcome progressive ideologues, neoconservative ventriloquists, I think you know who they are. They're part of the cartel that keeps me off certain television shows because they're afraid of my intellect, my intelligence, my education, and my power. Connected corporate interests and a military-industrial complex bent on permanent war. He will also have to fight progressive beliefs even he and his otherwise conservative appointees have unwittingly accepted. But there's an entire chapter in Trump's War about the Republican Party, so trust me, this is nothing new. Chapter 8 is entitled Trump's War Against the Rhinos, the Party versus the People, Republican Trade Traitors, a wall or a fence or a virtual wall. So, trust me, I see it coming, saw it coming, knew it was coming. I'm not simply an apologist for Donald Trump. I'm an apologist for America. So if that's my deficit, then sue me for it. Now, these are some of the countries. God, it's only 40 seconds left. I'm going to gag on it. I don't have time to do what I want to do. I need 3 full hours without interruption. I need no ads. I need no calls. One of these days, I'm going to tell the syndicator, I want an ad-free day. I don't want any breaks. And I'm going to get up here like Fidel Castro and I'll give you 3 straight hours of uninterrupted savage. And you're going to hear what I really feel, because once I get going, my mind will get going even more. And once my mind gets going, I'm not blocked in my flow, I'll be able to express myself. Right now, all you're getting are postcards from my soul. You're not getting a letter from my soul.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
If you wanna get down on the ground, okay.
Hey, that's so cool. That's so cool, guys. To round them up and hang them. Not these people in particular, just those who glorify drug use, which would be everyone in the entertainment business. So now we're seeing a big scandal of Harvey Weinstein. When have you last heard about the scandal of the fact that he's been promoting violence in his movies from the get-go, and rampant sexuality in his movies from the get-go? You say, well, are you a prude? No. Do you want censorship? I'm not so sure I don't. How's that? I don't know. I grew up in a time where there was self-censorship. I grew up in a time where the film producers wouldn't dare produce this kind of salacious material. And so there was no need for censorship at that time. I also grew up in a time when I remember my father again saying to me, have you noticed that in every movie with criminals, the criminals always die or go to jail at the end? I said, I didn't notice that. He said, well, the movies have to be produced like that, he said to me, because the government wants the message to go out that crime does not pay. I said, that makes sense. So you say, oh, that was terrible. What kind of freedom is that? That you're not letting the Harvey Weinsteins of the world show you that crime pays. We want freedom. We want total freedom in America. We want the Weinsteins to be able to show every little boy that it's good to be a criminal and you'll get away with it. And your friends who will kill themselves studying are the morons. That's the kind of freedom we want here. That's what we want in America today, to allow the Weinsteins of our time to run roughshod over the country, over the soul of the nation. No, I think the government's got to get involved in the movies, got to get involved in the drug epidemic, which Trump says he's doing. I don't know exactly what they're going to do. More treatment? Big deal. Half the treatment facilities are owned by drug cartels, so far as I can tell. They get you coming and going. Well, look into the board of directors of drug treatment facilities. Why don't you see if there's any interlocking corporate directorships between the treatment facility giants and the manufacturers of hard drugs. See if they're not sitting on pharmaceutical boards and on treatment boards. And then you'll understand why nothing will really happen. It could even be worse than that, for all I know. If I were writing the script, it would be much worse than that. But I'm not a script writer. I'm only a talk show host. I have a limited knowledge of everything. My limited knowledge, one man of 7 billion has a very limited knowledge of the world. But with the limited knowledge that I have, I express it. It's that, it's very interesting. I actually thought of that for the first time, because if you're in the media, you get megalomaniac. You become a megalomaniac, and you think that you know everything, and you're smarter than everybody. And then when the microphone goes off or the Klieg lights go off, and you got to get up in the morning, and there you are again, the same exact worm that God made. The same thing made from that foul drop. That same thing you are. And you got to get yourself up and wash your face and have your coffee or your chai or whatever you make to make yourself better than the next man. Not coffee, of course. If you're superior and you're a vegan, you wouldn't have something as evil as coffee. You have something like chai, some special drink only for you, made only for you, at the 7,000-foot range, picked by dwarfs of a certain spiritual class. God forbid someone should touch the leaf that you're drinking who is impure. And then at night, after your workday is over, all you purity freaks, you go to a nightclub till 4 o'clock in the morning and fill yourself with garbage. The next day, of course, you're a vegan again, drinking chai, lecturing everybody on white privilege and racism. And the cycle continues. There's another addiction in this country, which is an addiction to lies. The lie of white privilege. What a convenient way to hate white people. What a convenient, brilliant way to attack an entire race through racism and call yourself purer and holier than thou. But getting back to the issue of the top 8 countries consuming illegal drugs, I promised this to you 20 minutes ago. Here's the list. Number 1, roll the drums, Jim. Do we have any drum roll? No, it's too hard to do with the list. Poor Jim. I asked him to do 2 minutes. It's Friday, for God's sakes. I got to give this guy a break. We're having fun in the studio. Yesterday I had a good day. I knew it was coming today. I knew I was too happy yesterday. I knew today would be a crash. Today's a crash Friday. I'm very upset over a lot of things, which I'm not going to express to you. It's not your business. The number 1 nation that uses drugs is, roll the drums in your head, Iran. That's right. Holier than thou, Iran. Strict Muslim. Strictly Muslim Iran. Holier than everybody, with the mullahs running everything. Those pure mullahs, you know how good they are, don't you? Suffers one of the highest opiate drug addiction rates in the world. 14.32% per capita use heroin. Even though it's an oppressive religious government. Even though Islam is allegedly against drug use. Isn't it odd that Iran is at the top of the list? Is at the top of the list? And that the country's drug of choice are opiates? How is that possible? I thought the mullahs were so frum. I thought they were so pure. I thought the mullahs were so clean. I thought the mullahs were so great as role models. Highest, top of the list of countries consuming illegal drugs. 14.32% use heroin. Why? How is that even possible? Why? Because Iran's location in the Persian Gulf is an important transshipment point for Southeast Asian heroin on its way to European markets. Just remember the French connection. But heroin is not the only problem in Iran. Drugs are also being brought in by the trainload from Afghanistan, mainly opium. Oh, you didn't know opium was grown in Afghanistan? Did you know that's why all the American boys were dying there? To keep the old trail open? Make sure come on, that's an absurd conspiracy theory. I know that. All these boys are not sent there. They're sent there for freedom. The boys are sent there to be butchered for freedom. What if it turns out we're just a Hessian force? that's being sent in to make sure the drugs keep flowing. Because the odd part about that one, and I'm almost reluctant to say it because it makes me very nervous to say it, the Taliban oppose the growth of poppies. Did you know that? Oh, yeah. Yeah. We want them to have the freedom to grow poppies. How does that figure out? So Iran suffers one of the highest opiate addiction rates in the world. They also have a big problem with synthetic drugs. And by the way, this is an odd one. Even though there's a strict penalty in the Islamic Republic of Iran, they regularly enforce the death penalty for drug offenses, and yet they have one of the highest rates of drug use in the world. So I'm not so sure the death penalty would even work. What would work? Do I have an answer for you? I'm only one of 7 billion. Unlike others in the media, I am not God Almighty. I'm only a talk show host. Roll the drums if you found them. Jim will give him number 2. Any kind of sounder. That was a 5-minute break for you to find. Oh, he found them? Look at that. It was like a one-man job here. Poor guy. Should have 12 people in the studio, not one. I should have a sound effects man, a coffee man, a tea man, a chai man. Right? Poor Jim has to do it all. United Kingdom is at number 2, alcohol, 13.65% capita. So they're boozers in England. A bunch of drunks. 1.6 million people in England are alcohol dependent. But listen to this. The treatment rate is very low because they don't want to be treated. Well, they don't want to be treated. They love being drunks. It's part of their tradition. In other words, it's their tradition to be drunkards in England. They don't want that stopped. What are you, crazy? Be treated? Why, we want to go to the pub and get loaded and collapse in the street and have our skirts fall up to our navels at 6 o'clock in the morning. So the garbage man finds us in the street like a pail of garbage. That's womanhood in England. We don't want to be like the other countries. We want to be free. Roll the drums, Jim. I'll give him number 3 now. And coming in at number 3 of the top countries consuming illegal drugs is France. They're pillheads. You didn't know that the French are not winos anymore. They're pillheads. Since they gave up wine, they became pillheads. 13.2% of the population are addicted to pills. And that's because it's easier to procure painkillers in France than the U.S. And prescription drug prices are cheaper in France, all you socialists. That's why you love socialism. And so they're cheaper, more accessible. A bottle of painkiller meds can reach a price of $133 in the United States, while the same bottle of killing pills could cost in France about $57. And the 3 predominant painkillers consumed by the winos, the ex-winos in France, are Valium-like compounds, benzodiazepines, buprenorphine? Buprenorphine. Oh, they made a buprine molecule on morphine. Interesting. And methadone. Oh, yeah, old methadone. Methadone is more addictive than heroin, according to people I've interviewed. Treatment, yeah, real treatment. I don't know if you know the history of morphine, heroin, and methadone. I'll give it to you in a nutshell. It's very interesting to me as a former student of pharmacology. This country was addicted to the drug of morphine when it was legal, talking 1900 era. Morphine was in so many different over-the-counter products, elixirs and this and syrups and distillates and that. They even gave morphine-based products to babies who were teething. So an entire generation before World War I was addicted to morphine-related products in America. So this is really nothing new. But the addiction to morphine became so great that the scientific community was asked to come up with a synthetic derivative of morphine that would produce some pain-killing properties without being addicted. So the scientists produced 3,6-diacetyl morphine, which means they added acetyl groups to the morphine molecule, and then it was proposed to be much safer than morphine while affording similar, if not superior, pain-relieving qualities. So they released the equivalent of the 3,6-diacetyl morphine, and it was very popular because that product, 3,6-diacetyl morphine, is heroin. Heroin was produced in the laboratories as a cure for morphine addiction. Okay, so then the heroin addiction became a bigger problem than the morphine addiction. Spin the clock forward 50 years. Now we come to treatment for heroin. So the government scientists come up with methadone. Hey, how many times have you seen poor drug addicts? Oh, here's the thing, take the thing, suck the thing, drink the thing, take the pill, got to take the pill and the treatment. Now it turns out that junkies were more addicted to methadone, which was highly available on the streets because it was such a great high that methadone became a drug of choice for a lot of people addicted to a heroin. So I don't have an immediate answer to the problem. I'm giving you the top countries consuming illegal drugs, because I think it's a fascinating thing to learn that Iran is at the top of the list, even though it's a strictly Muslim nation, and that there's a death penalty for drug offenses. And then number 2 is UK with booze consumption. And number 3 are the pillheads over in France. They're no longer using wine. They're using pills. They love their Valium. Liberté, equality, liberté, equality, fraternité, and, of course, benzodiazepine.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Well, we all know that nothing is more essential than protecting your home, but getting traditional home security happens to be a punishing and expensive task. I've gone through it, and I found a better way. And you can protect your home a better way, a simpler way, a cheaper way with Simply Safe Home Security. Everyone has been locked into a long-term security contract at some point if they own a property. And you're on the hook for a number of years, 3 years, $45, $55 a month. And if it's hardwired, the installation cost me and you a fortune. And this new company, Simply Safe, got rid of everything that makes home security a hassle. They make it very easy for you. No long-term contract, no obligations, award-winning home security. Tech Magazine, CNET, calls Simply Safe Better, Smarter Home Security. And your home is protected around the clock with 24/7 professional monitoring. If there's trouble, they send the police, right? The service costs just $15 a month with Simply Safe. That's 3 times less than what the other guys charge. No hidden fees. So if you want to protect your home today, buy Simply Safe at your local Best Buy and have your home protected by tonight. Or visit simplysafesavage.com, 10% off. You heard me. Simplysafesavage.com for 10% off your system. SIMPLISAFE, savage.com. It's a great system. Well, I'm not going to do what I normally do right now, which is repeat all my topics, because I'm exhausted as it is. I'm not going to repeat what we're talking about. I'm not going to say to you, what is the most drug-addicted country, because I'm telling you what it is. I'm not going to ask you if you think all of the women who are saying, oh my, he touched me, are telling the truth, because I've already done that. But I am going to ask you in the next hour, have you been wrongfully convicted by a greedy, vicious prosecutor who himself or herself should be in prison? Because I have some prosecutorial horror stories that you're not going to believe when you hear them. Something that will not make it to Wolf Blitzer, since he's part of the government media complex. And that's the government media legal complex. 40 years after locking him up for a murder he did not commit, a former prosecutor apologized to a 55-year-old Philadelphia man after a lifetime behind bars. You hear this? He said, whoops. Gerald Dugan, a prosecutor in the homicide division of the Philly District Attorney's Office from 75 to 81, was an assistant DA when he prosecuted the murder of an egg deliveryman named Charles Haig. A 15-year-old boy named Kevin Brinkley was charged in the case. But the teen's relatives insisted at the time that his younger brother Ronald actually committed the robbery on December 22nd, 1977. Are you ready for the rest of the story? The man in jail for all these years was paroled last week. Just paroled last week. And where is the prosecutor who threw him in the clink for a lifetime behind bars? He's chairman of a Philadelphia law firm. And what was his punishment for doing this? He apologized to Brinkley after inviting him to his office. Isn't that nice? Isn't that sweet? The lawyer who threw him in jail for his life and made a mistake is now a big lawyer in a big law firm. He said, you never saw a sunrise. You never saw a sunset. You never drove a car. You never fell in love. Blah, 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 blah. And I want you to know I'm responsible for that. Because I told the jury what they should do, and they did it. Really, is that right? And that's enough? You said, whoops, is that it, Mr. Prosecutor? No, not in my world. Not in my world. My world, you go to jail now. You go out in handcuffs, and your whole life is ruined like you ruined his.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
Driving that train, high on cocaine. Casey Jones, you better watch your speed. Trouble ahead, trouble behind, and know that
All right,
notion.
so here we go. It's hour number 2 on a Friday. I'm not going to say like Mr. Preacher telling you you're evil if you use drugs. To me, it's not a matter of good or evil. It's a matter of whether you want to be an addict or not. I don't put a moral judgment on drug use. It doesn't make you dirty or evil. What it makes you is an addict. And the whole question now is the president comes out and says, okay, we got an opioid crisis, which Obama never admitted. And he's attacked for saying we have an opioid crisis by not having done more. That's the best Wolf Blitzer could do, who should have been a tie salesman in the garment district instead of sitting on television making believe he's an objective reporter. But there's no point in my yelling about Wolf Blitzer. It's not going to change anything any more than it is yelling about drugs and drug addiction. What good is it? Tell me what good it's going to do. So the president says that he's going to do something about it. What is he going to do about it? What can he possibly do? Throw more money at the problem? You and I both know the treatment rarely works. The recidivism rate is overwhelming. By the way, sex and drugs came out yesterday. U.S. study links marijuana use to more intercourse. No kidding. No kidding. Marijuana makes you more of a sex addict. Found it. The frequent marijuana users have 20% more sex than those who abstain. I know the liberal answer is so the Republicans ought to take more marijuana or use it. Maybe they'd have more sex and they'd be less mean. I know how that works. It's like putting a flower in the barrel of a gun, make love, not war. That worked really well in World War II or on Hacksaw Ridge. It would have worked real well on Hacksaw Ridge if our troops had put flowers in the barrels of their machine guns instead of bullets. Yeah, all right. Stupid. Stupid is as stupid is. Top 8 countries consuming illegal drugs. I gave you 3 or 4. Top 3. 1, Iran, heroin. 14% of the per capita uses heroin. Iran, would you believe that? I know you wouldn't have guessed it because I didn't. I thought the U.S. would have been at the top of the list. Number 2, roll of drums. United Kingdom. No, I didn't mean roll of drum. I don't even want to hear it. It was a psychic roll of drum. Number 2, United Kingdom, alcohol. 13% of them are drunks, and they don't want treatment. Also, UK is reportedly a major consumer of Southwest Asian heroin and Latin American coke. So much for England. Number 3, French, no longer wine. Now it's painkillers, mainly benzos and methadone. That's France. Let's save it for another show. Number 4, roll of the mental drum, Slovakia. They like inhalants. No wonder they're so intelligent. Slovakia, inhalants, 13% of the per capita. Mainly inhalants, toluene, in other words, like nail polish remover. No, I mean, has Slovakia produced anything of any note? They have a car, nothing. A clothing line? Isn't there really a Slovakian clothing? Nothing. Well, if you inhale nail polish, I guess the nation isn't going to produce anything. Slovakia's main concern with drug-related use and addiction has to do with inhalants. The culprit is a thinner-like, colorless inhalant known as toluene. Causes death and uses blah, blah, blah. Toluene, okay, so now paint thinner. That's really gross. What a nation. How'd that happen? Russia, number 5, booze, 7.1% of the population. Alcohol, mainly vodka. Research, most of the 25% of Russian men who don't reach the age of 55 die from alcohol-related causes. Liver disease, alcohol poisoning, alcohol influence accidents, violence, or even suicide, affecting negatively the overall lifespan of the average Russian. All right. But that's not the only problem in Russia. They spend more on illegal drugs in a year than the annual budget of the Ministry of Defense in Russia. Can you believe this? Aside from booze, heroin also constitutes a major problem in Russia. And that's because they have a porous border with Afghanistan, where the upstream heroin drug trade originates, period. Number 6, roll the Mendel drums. Afghanistan, heroin, 6.9% per capita use heroin. And it's worth mentioning to you that Afghanistan is the leading producer of poppy opium. It's reported that up to 50% of opium-using parents also give the drug to their children. Wow. Oh, my God. Okay, number 7 on the list of addiction nations. Are you interested in this? I mean, I make believe it's a graduate seminar in drug use because, I almost said Obama. I meant Trump. I can't, it's like a blur now. I almost said Nixon. I could have said Eisenhower. President, whoever the current president is, Trump, said that he's going to, I'm sorry, said he's going to do something about the opioid problem. Okay, number 7 on the list. Roll the drums in your head. Canada, they're addicted to marijuana. That figures with the ballerina running the country. 6.4% of the nation is addicted to marijuana. I think that's good to know because what you don't know is that marijuana is the most addictive of all drugs. And although you have been brainwashed into thinking it is benign and healthful, it is the exact opposite. It is an entry-level drug. Mark my words, in your lifetime, you will see marijuana controlled again by a future government. It doesn't matter whether it's a Democrat or socialist government. Marijuana will eventually be made a drug that will be controlled again because it's destroying too many children. Number 8 on the list is the United States addicted to prescription pills. 6.2% per capita addicted to pills, painkillers. And what's the number 1? Opioid abuse. More alarming statistic comes from someone who states that almost 5,500 people start to misuse prescription painkillers every day. And we all know the stories. Back injury, neck injury, surgery. They give you the oxy, and bingo, the next thing you know, you got scabs on your face and you're on the show called Intervention. And your family's crying in a hotel room next door. And you come in and there they are. There's Mother Jane and Father Joe weeping about what a great girl you were, and they don't know how it happened. And then they show you the baby pictures, and you were twirling a baton in high school. In college, you were on the chess team. The next thing you knew, I don't know, you slipped and fell and hurt your knee, and the next thing you know, you're a junkie. I can make a joke of it. I know it's not a joke. Now call up the proper authority. And I made a joke, and it hurt you. It personally offended you. Okay? Call Harvey Weinstein. Maybe he can help you. Everything offends somebody. I have a sarcastic way of dealing with things. It's the only way I can get through life. And if that offends you, I can't help it. Then turn on a show that's not offensive, if you can find one. To me, the most offensive shows are the ones that pretend that they're not biased. They offend me more than the ones that are biased. Because I'll take an overt bias any day. At least I know where the guy's coming from. As opposed to guys that pretend they're not biased. They're the most snake. The biggest snakes of all. How do you treat it? What would you do to treat the opioid problem? That's what the president says he's going to do. I don't know what he's going to do. Where's the sound sheet? I hear it. All right, so I knew that Mr. Trump never used alcohol, never used cigarettes, which I thought was fantastic. What a strong man he really is. Really strong guy. I don't know anyone who, by the way, doesn't use alcohol. I don't know one person. I drink. I drink every night. It's rarely a night goes by that I do not have a drink. I don't consider myself an addict for one reason. And that is I never drink during a day. I think in my entire life I've had maybe one drink during a daytime. I don't drink till after the sun goes down. And at this point, I usually have maximum 2, maybe 2.5 ounces at most. And it's funny, I was told by an alcoholic that I could never be an alcoholic because I have a chemical feedback mechanism. In other words, when I've had enough, which is after about 2 ounces, 2 drinks, I get a feedback mechanism where the drink I'm having doesn't taste good anymore and I don't want it. That's a natural kickback mechanism. I just don't want anymore. And I was told that alcoholics have no such feedback mechanism, that once they start, they can't stop. And they drink until they're, oblivious. So I'm not worried about it. So I have my own. And some days I just don't want to drink. I'm too tired. My good friend Lorenzo told me 20 years ago, he said, never ever drink when you're tired. It's a very good rule, by the way. A lot of people come into a restaurant, they're tired, they have a glass of wine. Worst thing you could do. The worst thing you could do is have a drink when you're tired. Absolute worst thing you could do. But getting back to the issue of the feedback mechanism, in many cases, drug addiction is a chemical problem. In many cases, it's just simply a lifestyle choice. And I don't have the simple answer. I'd be sitting like a fool to tell you I have the answer. I don't have the answers. Too many people involved, too many different reasons, too many real cases of severe pain that can't be controlled for me to sit here like a moron and tell you I have the simple answer. I mean, we're just talking about the problem, which is about all I can do right now. And I have pain right now in my neck. I wish I had something to use. I don't know what it is. I'm sleeping on a new pillow. I don't know what. My neck, I woke up for 2 days now, like a crink. I think it's the news is getting to me. No, it isn't. It's the pain of the book. The stress of God, faith, and reason is the highest stress I've ever had with any book. I don't know if you know this. A friend of mine, a really important guy, said to me, Michael, stop it. He said Kubrick was not just the director. I mean, was only the director of the movie. He was not also the public relations agent, the salesman in the street, the printer. He said, Michael, you're the author. Why must you do everything for this book? Why are you so involved with every aspect of who gets the book, who doesn't get the book? I just actually inscribed the copy 10 minutes ago to President Trump. I asked his assistant if the president would like to receive it. She said, absolutely, yes. So it's going out by express mail. I got to spend $66 to send a couple of... Kills me. I hate it. Now, I could have the publisher send it, but it's not inscribed that way. So I sent it to the president, and I hope he gets it before he leaves on a trip next week to Asia. He's leaving, Friday? And listen, I got to tell you an inside story. Next Thursday, he's having a Radio Row group of people to come in, and you're sitting like on a desk next to other people, and you do your show, and then he comes table to table and talks about tax reform. I respectfully declined for 2 reasons. One, because I don't do Radio Rows, number one. And number two, I don't do Radio Rows, number two. And number three, I don't do Radio Rows. That's all. And when he wants to see me, he'll have time for me. I'll come there. And that'll be that. I'm just not going. I wish all the guys who were going good luck. There are mainly local hosts and some smaller national hosts who will be there for that time. And it's a big world. There's a lot of people in this business. Everybody wants my position. They all wish that I would drop dead and go away already so they could get the job. But I don't plan on going anywhere so soon. So thanks, guys. I hope you have a good time next week, but I'm not going to be there. And for those of you who control the cartel, where you control 4, 5, 6 hosts, and it all comes through one money source, through one agent, stay tuned for what's coming very soon about how the world finds out about this cartel and what they think about the lies that you put out about how much you love freedom and competition. And they'll find out that you're worse than the people that your talkers put down. I am so pissed off at this cartel, you have no idea. When you find out what I'm talking about, and I'm not naming names yet, I'm saving all of this for 2018. I'm doing an expose in 2018 that's going to shake up the entire industry. It's going to be bigger than Harvey Weinstein's sexcapades. Once you find out that there is a cartel in radio that controls almost all the money that flows to national hosts on one side of the aisle, and it all goes through one source, and all of them claim that they're into freedom, and they're all conservatives, and they all love America, and they all love competition, the opposite is true. They crush competition. They don't want competition, and they want me gone. But you don't know any of that. But I know an awful lot about it, and I have stuff that I have to get off my chest. I've taken it for too many years. And that's enough on that for right now. Power is very addictive. And when you get away with sucking all the money through one funnel for so many years and no one's ever called you on it, or you pretend to be a great conservative talk show host who's anti-government, and you own over 12,000 apartments, many of which are Section 8 housing, and you collect government checks through a third-party source, nobody really wants to know about that, do they? You don't want to break their bubble, do you? No, you want them to think that you're just an honest guy who wants the best for America, and that you really don't want the government in their lives. And all the while, it's the government that's been making you a rich man. 2018, stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Jimmy, where is he today? Where is Jimmy Cliff? Is he still alive? I hope he's alive, man. What energy he had. I read that little Richard is ashamed of his past. He's seeking God now. Used to be involved in orgies and men, women, didn't matter. Now he's apologizing to God. I don't understand it. One after the other now, they're finding God. Is it because of my book, God, Faith, and Reason? Somehow it's filtering out that God's in the air? They may not even know that it's because I started talking about God, faith, and reason now for quite a while. I know you say, oh, come on, don't be so egotistical. I am not egotistical. I am like the guy who throws a pebble into a still pond and it ripples out from me. You say, oh, come on, we never see you anywhere on television. It doesn't matter. You know, I've been on the radio for almost a quarter of a century. That's awesome. How many presidents have come and gone and I'm still here? How many senators have come and gone and I'm still here? How many people in the media predicted I wouldn't last a week are gone and I'm still here? So is it about me? A little bit, but it's really not. It's about somebody up there. I think there is somebody up there, and I think that somebody up there has paved the way or greased the skids a little bit and kept me just down enough that I didn't get too big, because if I got too big, I would have gotten too much, like too egotistical. And I probably would have blown it. I probably would have bought 14,000 apartments in Miami over the years and things like that. Or I would golf in Hawaii and come back and tell you I'm just a poor man who drives a broken Volkswagen with 6 windows and this way to the egress. And he didn't want that. He didn't want that, you know. I want to talk about Rasputin one of these days. It's not the right day. I was talking about drug addiction. But when I was watching that show on that movie from 1971, wow, I hope you can catch it on Alexandra and what his name is, the Romanovs, and see how they lived the glory of ancient Russia and how the peasants were starving to death and how it led to the Russian Revolution, and then how the left-wing parties all killed each other for power. The Mensheviks were actually the moderate middle-of-the-road communists. He was killed pretty quickly by the Lenin group. The Bolsheviks killed him. Then they killed each other. Then they killed children. Man, it didn't matter. And now here we are still arguing over whether socialism is the way to go from a whole generation of brainwashed, drug-addicted children who have no idea what they're talking about.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Okay, I loved it. Yes. Give me that big horn section. I want to go to an imaginary bar this weekend that doesn't exist except in the movies. And so therefore I will go nowhere except to another movie. Welcome back to the Savage Nation. We're talking about drug addiction, the opioid problem. We're talking about which countries have the highest rates of addiction. We're talking about, do you believe all the women who are saying, oh, he touched me, oh, he molested me. And we're talking about this and that. The president never had a drink, doesn't smoke. That's not good enough for Nancy Pelosi, that he doesn't drink and he doesn't smoke. And all of the other, I can't use the proper word because it's a family show in the media. There's only a couple of people in the media I trust. One of them joins us right now, Laura Ingraham. Guest ready. Her book, Billionaire at the Barricades. Laura, what's going on the book row?
Oh, hey, Michael. Good to talk to you. How's everything going there?
Horrible. I'm in a horrible mood as usual. It's Friday, and I don't know, like I got a bad neck, something. So, Laura, how's the book tour going?
It's good. I had to cut it short because of this new show I'm doing on Fox on Monday. But, yeah, we hit, I think, number 8 in the New York Times list. But we got to keep it going, Michael, because you got a lot of liberals on the list, as you know.
Now, what is your book, Billionaire at the Barricades, and why should anyone read it?
It is
Hello? Oh, we lost her, right? That was nice. Bingo. That was she's probably in a tunnel somewhere in the CIA. I don't know where she is. Clint. Okay, well, she'll call us back. That's all. The minute she does, we'll take it. Let's take some. I haven't had a call yet, an hour and a half. Would you believe this? All right, is Tim still there on line 7? Who's the best caller? Because we had a lot of people holding a long time. David on KLIF in Dallas, line 2. What's on your mind, David?
Hey, Mike, I've been under pain management for now 7 years, and initially when I started on them, they were prescribing me 240 pain meds a month, okay? The only possible way that I have found to break this addiction is my own personal beliefs in God and just, committing to reducing it.
How many meds do you use a month now?
100.
100 a month?
100 a month. That's about 3 1/4 a day.
And you started at how many a month?
240.
And you're doing it through self-control?
Well, through my doctor. I mean, I've been through quite a few doctors to get to...
But so you're saying prayer helps you with some of the pain management, right?
Oh, positively. No question about it.
All right, well, that's something people need to hear. I'm sending you a copy of God, Faith, and Reason, which I'm sure you're going to love reading, okay?
Oh, thank you so much, Doctor.
No, you got it. It's good for what ails you. We're waiting for Laura to call back. Apparently her line broke, right, Cliff? She went in a tunnel or something? The tunnel of love? Is she back or not? Just what are you shaking your hands through the screen? Yes or no? I don't know. I'm looking through the screen. Yes? Where is she? Line who? Where is she? I don't know. See, I'm not getting the right signaling here. Oh, Ingram. Line 10, Ingram. Laura, you're back? You went through the tunnel of love? You're back?
It's another assault against the populist movement.
No, it's the NSA did it. I know, right? A big secret. Now, you're probably walking through a tunnel into CIA headquarters, right?
Oh my God, it's a nightmare. Are you going to be in Florida over Thanksgiving?
Why? Who's there?
Well, I'm going to be, so I was thinking we could have dinner. Let's just talk.
Are we going to Mar-a-Lago?
Well, I'm not a member of Mar-a-Lago, but we could go somewhere.
Well, no, but is the president inviting us for his Thanksgiving dinner?
No, I have no idea. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in seeing you and your family.
me more than President Trump.
Yeah.
Because at least I have a drink. He doesn't.
Well, I think for him it's a good thing, and
it is a very good thing. For me, it would kill me if I didn't drink. If I didn't have a drink, I'd be dead.
I can't drink really much anymore. I've decided it just doesn't work with me. I'm pretty much not.
Well, you're going into a high gear. Monday is the big day, huh?
Yeah. So it's.
Laura, come on, be honest with my audience. A little butterfly-ish over Monday.
Oh yeah. Oh, of course. This is kind of the biggest.
But you have been on Fox for how many years now? You used to fill in for a man whose name I'm not allowed to mention because of what happened.
10 years.
10 years? So what's the big deal? So you're going to you did fill-ins for a whole show, right?
Yeah, but filling in for someone is different from having, your name on the show. It's your team, it's your booking, it's your effort, it's your monologue, it's your, so yeah.
I know it's a big pressure. And how many children do you have to deal with?
3.
That's all. 3 children, new house, new career. What more could you ask for?
Yeah, well, and my friends, my family are my friends. So you're my family.
Well, you have faith. Don't you have faith? I mean, you're very religious, aren't you, without going into it?
Very religious. I'm a fallen person, Michael. I'm a fallen.
Well, you're a fallen angel like all of us, but you are a very, very faithful person. You believe in God, don't you?
I get down on my knees every night and I pray for wisdom and humility and patience because I'm very impatient, extremely. It's one of my worst faults.
Well, all of us in the media have a Lawrence O'Donnell moment.
Yeah. So I need to take a...
I mean, but he heard hammering in his head. Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering. Who's hammering up there?
Who's hammering?
Who's hammering? I'll come up there myself. Who's hammering?
Let me tell you, I empathize with anyone who goes through like a live broadcast and stuff just doesn't work. I mean, until, you know this, Michael, until it's your show with a microphone and the light goes on, and then it's just, you know, it's easier said that, oh, keep your cool. Yeah, okay, yeah, you should keep your cool, but sometimes it's not easy.
All right, don't worry about it. So you got a hot temper. So what? That's what makes you great.
Well, it's just...
You don't, look, Laura, my advice to you, and I'm not in television, it's a tough medium, television, because radio, as tough as it can be, especially in the loose format in which I do it, which is free form, television is so different, where every gesture, every grimace, every blink is seen. I know it's a different stress.
Well, and also for women, you know, I'm like a tomboy, so I wear jeans and a t-shirt, and like I like to dress up, but I'm much more of kind of an outdoors person, athlete, and so the whole hair and makeup thing, it's just not me. So is that?
Why don't you do your show in a t-shirt and jeans?
I might.
What if like every Friday you did a show as you really are? What would happen then? Fox would go crazy.
People would flee the TV. That's what would happen. They'd be like, "Who is?"
Well, it's a tough business. So, Laura, on the book tour again, getting back to your book, Billionaire at the Barricades. What's happening out in the bookstores?
Well, I think that right now, because there's been such a contraction of bookstores and independent bookstores are under such pressure, it's definitely harder for most authors. If you don't have a platform, like you have a huge platform, your book's coming out. By the way, I just got your book today. I'm so excited. I can't.
Oh, thank God they mailed it. I was shocked at oh, good.
Just got it. Literally just got it.
Wait, hold it. What do you think I look? How do I look on the cover?
You look great. It's a
Don't I have like a Norman Vincent Peale look, like very saintly, like my eyes like cut right through you?
It's a great. No. It's a great picture of you. You look great. I love it.
Is that me? But is that the real me, or is there a different me that you see? You don't really think of me as that, with that serene guy with like guru-like eyes, do you?
I think of you as a storyteller, who ruminates. You ruminate a lot over things.
That's kind of an insult. I don't have any bovine in me.
No, you reflect and ruminate, and you tell stories. It's a lost art in the United States. But anyway, back.
I know. No, I'm just kidding. But so, Laura, honestly, tell me what's going on. So, because the bookstores are contracting.
Yep.
We lost Borders books a few years ago. That was a huge loss for authors, right?
Noble's shutting down everywhere across the country. They're still there, but they're much fewer. And Books A Million still's out there, but independent bookstores, they can't compete with Amazon. It's really hard for them. So I do try to support independent stores, and conservative books are routinely shunned by books.
Yeah, but Laura, I got to tell you, my books last 5 in a row are bestsellers. They're all in heavy placement in Barnes and Noble up front, heavy in Books A Million, heavy in Sam's Club, and it's because my publisher, frankly, works at it to make it happen. I mean, I'm not complaining about your publisher or putting them down. Yep. But, yes, it's a competitive world, the retail world. But 1/3 of all books today are sold on digitally, aren't they? They're like, the digital.
It's a little less than it used to be. But, yeah, I think there's still a lot. And Amazon is just crushing everybody. So Amazon and the New York Times list doesn't really count Amazon. They count Amazon, I think, 1/3 as much as they count an independent book sale. So.
They modify. So if your book's number 1 on Amazon, they don't count all the numbers?
It's not weighted the same.
Oh, my God. But Laura, listen, this is an important conversation for young people listening or people who want to write a book. Everyone wants to write a book. Everyone thinks they have a book in them. And I started as an unknown poet, short story writer. And, if I had thought that I could sell 10,000 copies in hardcover of one of my early writings, I would have thought I was a huge success. The pressure on us today is so overwhelming that unless you sell 150,000 in hardcover, you're a failure. It's a nightmare.
Oh my God, no! It's not just that. Like, unless you have a platform, like a real platform to sell a book, good luck. I mean, it's rare. It's just like in the music industry. It's rare to have a breakout author now. It's really hard. So you have to have a platform like yours.
But your book did well. It went up to number 8, right?
Yeah, well, it just came out. I mean, and now that I'm on television, we'll be able to.
Oh, so you're gonna be able to talk about your own book on your own show. That's great.
Yeah, well, most people don't know that I was a speechwriter in the Reagan administration. Most people don't know that I was a total rabble-rouser at Dartmouth College when people didn't even call it political correctness. They don't know that I came from extremely humble beginnings and I had the upbringing I had. Most people think that I'm some blue blood.
No, if I looked at you, I thought you were like a rich white girl. You had white privilege. I mean, the minute I met you, I thought you were white privilege.
No, I have Polish privilege.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. You know the joke, right?
No, exactly.
Yeah, well, I had no privilege. I've had to fight for everything I ever had. So, Laura, you're a fighter. I don't want to dwell on it, but people should know, Laura, as a human being. Can you mention? No, that wouldn't be right for me to bring up. But you've overcome a physical problem. I think it's worth talking about so people know what you're fighting, how hard it is.
Yeah, I mean, I had breast cancer back in 2005. I was actually, I found out I had it because I was engaged, and we were, wanted to have kids right away. And I went to the doctor, and the doctor's like, "Well, I feel a little something." I'm like, "Oh, great!" And so then I went to get it looked at, and this woman said, "Well, I think it's okay. We can just monitor it every 6 months." And another doctor said, I want that biopsied right away. And of course, I got a biopsy, and I got a call the next day. You do have breast cancer. I'm like, oh, thanks. I'm glad I had another opinion. So,
I'm sorry to hear it.
And yeah,
well, you had a double surgery, Laura, and you overcame all that. And you're on the radio all these years, and now you're on TV. I mean, it's a tough road you're going down.
Well, on Thursday, I would finish my show on Thursday at noon, and then I would run to the hospital to do chemotherapy, and then the next day I was totally out of it, and then I'd come back by Monday.
Oh, my God, you're tough as nails. Laura, stay on the line. I know we were only going to do one segment, but every time you get on my show, we have such a great rapport. We're like the Burns and Allen of our generation. When we come back, we're better than them. We are going to talk about Laura Ingram's book, Billionaire at the Barricades, and hopefully I want to hear what she thinks about God, faith, and reason the minute we come back on the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Attention, if you travel for business, you know it's a game of wins and losses. Popping open an overhead bin, finding it empty, that's a win. Sleeping through a wake-up call, that's a loss. Buying your business trip at Upside.com, that's a triple win. Number one, because Upside has the absolute best available prices for flights, hotel, or rental cars. Number two is that Upside will reward you with a gift card to places like Amazon.com every time you buy a business trip. And number three is the amazing 6-star treatment you'll get from Upside's customer service specialist. One recent Upside customer was called away for an emergency meeting and had to miss his wife's birthday. So an Upside navigator sent her flowers to try and help ease the disappointment. That's pretty amazing. And that's just only one example of how Upside navigators go above and beyond for business travelers. Imagine what they'll do for you. Upside navigators are instantly accessible 24/7 by voice, chat, email, or message on the Upside app, even reaching out to you with useful info to help you avoid a problem before it happens. And I'm going to start your Upside 6-star treatment right now. Go to Upside.com, use my code SAVAGE, and you'll get a minimum $100 gift card to Amazon.com. You heard me. That's code SAVAGE for a $100 minimum gift card to Amazon.com. Only when you buy your next business trip at Upside.com. Upside.com. You deserve a better business trip. Minimum purchase required. See site for complete details. Now let's go back to our wonderful guest, Laura Ingram, with her new book, Billionaire at the Barricades. Laura, fire away. You have a minute to tell the world about your book.
The country is at a crossroads. We say it, every 4 years, it's at a crossroads. But given the fact that now we have people who think it's okay to kneel for the national anthem, that we're bending gender, that we're spending like there's no tomorrow, that China has the largest standing army in the world, we have to understand how to beat this establishment, beat the bipartisan cabal in Washington, we're on our way with Trump, but we've got to hold him accountable. So we have to understand where we've been to be able to be sure that we're going to be successful as a country. And we have to have fun as we launch this war against the cabal. And I take you every step of the way for the last 20 years on this journey, and I lay out how Trump can actually be successful. And he listens to people like Savage and yours truly and stays on message and stays on principle. We're going to see a renaissance in this country like we haven't seen since 1980. So,
all right, so and the way to do it is read your book, Billionaire at the Barricades, to learn all about it. Laura Ingraham, again, I wish you the best of success on Monday, and hopefully you know what might happen. You might be the lucky one to get me back on television after 20 years of an absence, Laura.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm working to make that happen. And Michael, you're just such a great friend and such a great person and patriot, and I adore you. You know that.
All right. Well, good luck, and cut down on the stress. Have a drink on me. This is the Savage Nation. If we are a free nation, why are we enslaved by drugs and pornography and other addictions? Are we really free? How do you solve the opioid problem? Huh?
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
Somebody that guided me, and he had a very, very, very tough life because of alcohol. Believe me, very, very tough life. He was a strong guy, but it was a tough thing that he was going through. But I learned because of Fred. I learned, and that's what I think is so important. This was an idea that I had, where if we can teach young people not to take drugs, just not to take them. When I see friends of mine that are having difficulty with not having that drink at dinner, where it's literally almost impossible for them to stop, I say to myself, I can't even understand it. Why would that be difficult? But we understand why it is difficult. The fact is, if we can teach young people and people generally not to start, it's really, really easy not to take them. And I think that's going to end up being our most important thing.
That's all. So we finally have a president who's standing up to the drug lobby. And, of course, the left wing that's tied into the drug lobby doesn't like it. It's that simple. They don't like this attack on opioids. How much money flows from the drug companies and lobbyists for drug companies to politicians on both sides of the aisle? I don't know. I would assume a great deal. And we're also talking about the allegations, because I couldn't believe this one. I'm not going to tell you that I believe this. George H.W. Bush responds after actress accuses him of sexual assault. Remember this week? Remember this week that an unknown actress alleged that George H.W. Bush touched her inappropriately while he was sitting in his wheelchair during a photo op that took place a few years ago. Now, do you actually believe this occurred? Moreover, do you know there was a time in the media, not even a few years ago, that the media would have dismissed this garbage and said, prove it to me. What are you talking about? But now we're living through a witch hunt where every man is in the crosshairs of these vicious, dirty lawyers, and no one knows who's going to get it next. They're taking everybody down. It is called a witch hunt. And I want to ask you out there, have you been the target of a false allegation of sexual harassment? That's number one. And number two, women, do you actually believe all of these nobody actresses? Do you actually believe all of them, that they were all sexually assaulted? Are you kidding? I don't. Now, that's not to say it doesn't occur. I just got an email from a listener who says, I'm concerned about these allegations, and even if they're all true, will the huge number of them make them less alarming? The public is quickly desensitized to alarming situations if inundated with the same or a similar scenario numerous times in close succession. And the emailer says, I've been sexually harassed and discriminated against many times in my life. I have little doubt these allegations are true. But the reason women mostly try to let it go when it happens is because no one really cares. And if you stand up to it, you can be temporarily or forever destroyed. So you let it go and you go on and hope to dodge it better next time. Well, that's the world we're living in today. You want to talk about that? You want to talk about the other issues of the day? This is the place to do it. So the president comes out saying he's going to take on the opioid problem, which is a very noble thing to do, especially since Obama ignored it for 8 years. Right away, here comes Mad Dog Pelosi. You're not going to believe what she says about this. Apparently, she was able to get over her brain freezes, her facial freezing, her stumbling, and come on with an attack in 08. Listen to this.
Show me the money. It's okay. We all agree. We passed the 21st Century Cures Act last year. We all agree that this is a place we have to go. I had the speaker write me a letter that we would continue to have the funding in the appropriations bill, but the president's statement are words without the money.
So she says, where's the money? If that doesn't tell you all you need to know about the Democrat Party, there's nothing more I can do for you. Here's a president trying something noble about a real problem, and right away, here Pelosi comes out, where's the money? Where's the money? Where's the money? Where's the money? That's all I care about. Where's the money? The money. Well, honey, I don't know where the money is. Now, Chris Christie came up with something important. He said the epidemic was started by physicians, hospitals, and Big Pharma. Listen to 09. Christie's 100% right in 09.
I'll tell you how it started. It started in doctors' offices and hospitals and pharmaceutical companies all over this country. We consume 85% of the world's prescription opiates. 85%, we're 4% of the world's population. This is an epidemic here that was started by our physicians, by our hospitals, by our pharmaceutical companies. And that's what happened. And the fact is, if we don't get at that root of it, think about this. 4 out of every 5 heroin addicts today in America started on prescription opioids.
Well, that's like relieving them of responsibility, though, Chris. You know, I mean, come on. Let's be real. The person using the drugs has a great deal of responsibility. Okay, I know people who are alcoholics who gave it up on their own without treatment because they made a decision they didn't want to be a filthy drunk and destroy themselves and their family. And they went cold turkey. So don't tell me it's always someone else. Don't look to the government to cure you of your addiction. That's as simple as that. And I think he's also wrong about this percentage-wise, by the way, is that 85% of the world's prescription opiates, 85% with 4% of the world's population. That's like ignoring the fact that Iran is the number one user of illicit drugs in the world at 14.32% of the population uses heroin in Iran, a Muslim nation. And that France has an addiction problem that's overwhelming, and it's 13.2% of the population is addicted to pills in France. So let's not say America's the worst. It isn't. It's easy to think we're the center of the universe with this, but we are not. So what do you want to talk about? KSFO, Kathy, line 3, what's on your mind? Gone with the wind. Line 3 gone. Hello, Clint, you're the call screener. Not there. I don't believe this. Okay, national show. Someone tapped Clint on the shoulder? Clint, line 3 was not there when I called it. So let's go to line 1. David, line 1, what's your topic?
Yeah, hey, Savage, man, I'm a Muslim. I know you don't like Muslims, but whatever.
Whoa. I absolutely never said that. I don't like Islamists who use their religion as a weapon. No, sir. Totally different.
Thank you. I am an American patriot, conservative, served in the United States military for many years, a combat veteran and all that. What I wanted to say is that, I've been accused, when you're a Muslim, you come from the Middle East, you're immediately, if somebody says, and you're in a position of, authority, somebody accuses of sexual harassment, you're immediately guilty.
Right. You're guilty whether you're guilty or not. So, like, under what terms, David, have you been accused?
Well, so one woman said that I had touched her breast, and that took about a couple of years to prove her wrong, and a few tens of thousands of dollars. So, what proof do you have? I had to go to court to fight this.
You actually had to go to court to prove a negative that you did not touch her?
Absolutely. It happened several times in the Army. It happened when I wouldn't promote people.
So you were an officer above some of these women, and they said you touched them in order to bring you down.
I was an NCO.
So what do you think the solution is to all this, David?
Publicity.
No.
Other judges are getting smart. Even female judges are getting smart. And, they're realizing that there's a lot of BS behind this. I mean, I don't know about Weinstein. I mean, that's just a little too much of, I mean, when it comes from the left against left, it's something else. But, things about George Bush Sr., come on,
That's what I'm saying. That, to me, was an indicator that a lot of this is made up by these vicious lawyers. And there is a solution, David, which is this. If a person brings a false accusation against another person for sexual harassment, and it is proven that it was invented, there should be a punishment equal to the punishment that would have been brought upon the accused. That would tend to put a stop to the Gloria Allreds and her daughter. And moreover, I would say this. If a lawyer is found to engage, and we don't know if they are, in smearing people based upon innuendo, and it is proven that they're making it up, and the case is then dismissed, the lawyer should be disbarred, if not put in prison.
Yes, I was going to go and file civil lawsuits against a couple of these women. And I almost went against one of the prosecutors through the American Bar Association to file a grievance. But, when you got to work 40, 60 hours a day.
No, don't. You can't. It's for an organization to do. You can't spend your whole life. It's like bicyclists here in the area where I live. They take over a road, and if you try to pass them, they give you a finger. And you're tempted to scream at them or yell, and God forbid something would happen. Someone said to me, you know what? You don't want to know that bicyclist for the rest of your life. Just let it go. Okay? And wait till you have a chance to pass them. It's the same thing with these vicious lawyers and these accusers. You don't want to know them for the rest of your life, David. You need to go on with your life. So, look, I want to say this. You said something at the beginning that I found very interesting. You think I don't like Muslims. I spent a lot of time in the Fiji Islands collecting medicinal plants, and half my friends were Fijians. The other half were Indians who were Muslim, and believe me, you're wrong. I woke up in the morning with the people doing Muslim prayers. I went to sleep with people doing the Muslim. I never gave it a second thought. I am talking about the radical breed that affects your people more than it affects my people, because more Muslims have been killed by Muslims than others. I know you know that, David.
Absolutely.
So I hope you come to understand that I'm not a hater at all. I'm a healer, and I want to send you a book only if you tell me you'll really read it, called God, Faith, and Reason, because, frankly, we worship the same God.
Absolutely. And, my real name is Dawood, which is actually the Islamic name for David.
I know, Dawood. And if I say Shalom Aleichem, you would say Aleichem Shalom.
There you go.
And if I say hello, you would say goodbye. And if I would say the sun is rising, you would say the sun is setting.
Oh, exactly,
Yeah, I love Middle Easterners because Middle Easterners love to argue about everything. The sun is coming up. The other one says it's not really coming up. The earth is moving.
Oh, there you go.
Dawood. Shalom, Dawood. Thank you for calling. Stay on the line, Dawood. We'll send you a copy of God, Faith, and Reason. What a great call that is. That made my day. That really made my day. Oh, man, if I could get more people who I can get along with who think I don't like them and they don't like me, and they find out, you know what? This is a product of misunderstanding. It would be so good. That's all. I wanted to read something for you. I'm not doing the book yet. I'm waiting for it. Oh, here it is. This is the last page of my book, which I think I can safely read to you. It doesn't show you the controversy of the book. which I'm holding back for the week of publication. And here's what I wrote. God is everywhere. God is not linear. God is infinite. Envision the Milky Way, all the stars and all the universes, all the pebbles, every grain of sand, all the crawling insects. God created all things big and small. How we approach the Creator defines us. Those who accept Jesus as the Son of God call themselves Christians. Those who bow to Allah are called Muslims. Jews worship the single entity they call God. What of Hindus who worship not God but fantastic entities? And Buddhists who read their poetry of life and bow down to an idol? What do we say of the many who worship the Great Spirit? How do we define those who don't believe in an all-powerful God, but may spend their conscious minutes pondering the stars and planets, the movements of celestial bodies, the quarks and sparks of dying stars millions of light years away, or those who argue over causality, the physicists and scientists who say there is no God except for rational thought and electrical impulses that die when our bodies no longer emit signs of life? Are they not seeking the answer to this ancient riddle as well? And now you understand this book is not an ordinary book. Some would say not by an ordinary man. So don't be so quick to typecast anyone, including yours truly. Michael Savage, author of God, Faith, and Reason. I think you're going to be shocked to find out what's in that book. Back in a minute.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. All right, so we hear about the opioid crisis. Do you know that there are sellers selling prescription drugs such as fentanyl on social media? I don't think you understand how bad this is. Fox News is reporting that you can buy fentanyl transdermal patches online without prescription. That's from certain companies. Fentanyl and other synthetic opioids have been cited as major killers in America's opioid epidemic. Now, as you know, President Trump declared the opioid crisis a public health emergency just yesterday. But videos promoting opioid sales have emerged also on YouTube. One video says, buy oxycodone, Oxycontin, Percocet, Roxycodone, Vicodin. On another video, order without prescription, no hassle involved. Another post says, buy Percocet online. Another video says, no RX required. How is this going on? How is this going on? Why is the government not arresting these drug peddlers on the internet? On President Trump's watch, he said there are going to be new steps to combat as the worst drug crisis in U.S. history. And Trump's declaration, which will be effective for 90 days, can be renewed. And we don't know what's going to happen. Of course, Nancy Pelosi just wants more money thrown at the problem. That's all she wants. I think what we need is more than just money thrown at the problem. And I believe that we're going to see arrests very soon. If you can buy Percocet, 10 milligram, 30 milligram online without a doctor's prescription, is that freedom or is that slavery? If you can buy fentanyl transdermal patches online without prescription, is that freedom or is that slavery? Ask yourself these questions because there is an answer to all of them. The phone number here is 855-400-7282. Of course, we learned today that the FDA will begin promoting opioid alternatives because the deaths and addictions are on the rise. I don't know what the alternatives are. I saw an uncle die of cancer, liver cancer, and I saw him begging for pain treatment. And I saw my aunt curse the doctor saying, you can't cure and you can't kill, what good are you? So I really don't know if there is a simple answer to this problem, frankly.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. 8.
Blame for the drug epidemic? Well, everybody. That's simple. Blame everybody but the president. Now, Nancy Reagan, to her credit, had a campaign called Just Say No. It had some effect upon an entire generation who learned to just say no to the scum of the earth who were trying to get him to try a marijuana cigarette or a little cocaine or God knows what else. It worked to a certain extent. It probably saved a lot of lives. So now we have a president who is a conservative, who is being attacked by the sigmoid colognes in his own party. That's actually elevating him too high up the channel. But since this is a family show, I will call them the sigmoid colons of the body politic. I'd rather call him something else. Can you imagine that his own party is acting like worse than his worst enemies? Well, I'm shocked by it, right? I didn't write about it in Trump's War. I think I'll tell you one minute, for 1 second now, at the risk of your displeasure, what I predicted in Trump's War, which is why it's still selling wildly. What did I say? I said Trump faces relentless opposition from special interests in both parties who stand to lose trillions if Trump's America First policies become the law of the land. Not only will Trump have to overcome progressive ideologues, neoconservative ventriloquists, I think you know who they are. They're part of the cartel that keeps me off certain television shows because they're afraid of my intellect, my intelligence, my education, and my power. Connected corporate interests and a military-industrial complex bent on permanent war. He will also have to fight progressive beliefs even he and his otherwise conservative appointees have unwittingly accepted. But there's an entire chapter in Trump's War about the Republican Party, so trust me, this is nothing new. Chapter 8 is entitled Trump's War Against the Rhinos, the party versus the people, Republican trade traitors, a wall or a fence or a virtual wall. So, trust me, I see it coming, saw it coming, knew it was coming. I'm not simply an apologist for Donald Trump. I'm an apologist for America. So if that's my deficit, then sue me for it. Now we're a generation that is addicted to drugs and pornography. And the president yesterday says that we can be the generation that ends the opioid epidemic. That's a good thing, right? No, you're wrong, not according to the vermin in the media. If you can believe what I'm about to tell you, Trump comes out as the first president to try to end the opioid epidemic, and the rats, the sewer rats in the media with suits and ties and dirty dresses, the sewer rats in the media say it's not enough. Lydia, why didn't he do more, Lydia? We've interviewed some heroin addicts who said they're glad to hear it, but the president has not gone far enough. Well, how far did Obama go in ending the opioid epidemic? Like nowhere. He didn't even lift a toe. So no matter what Mr. Trump does, these sewer rats in the media will say he didn't do enough, or he was wrong, or he did this, he did that. I could go on all day long about my hatred. It's becoming not just distaste, anger, rage. It's absolute hatred for these sewer rats in the media. They have destroyed the world, and now they're destroying the country. You may think that they are innocent and just doing it for fun, but you have no idea what damage they're doing to this country and to the world. And I will tell you right now, if you think that there's not going to be a rebound effect to the wolf blitzers of the world and what they are doing, Mr. Blinky with the white beard, who should have been a tie salesman in the garment district of New York instead of a newsman, he has the same mentality as a tie salesman as far as I'm concerned. One question after the other giving them away. It's unbelievable to me. So the president says, okay, we're going to be the first generation that ends the opioid epidemic, and they attack him, even though no other president tried to do it like this. Listen to the president in clip 1, will you please?
Beyond the shocking death toll, the terrible measure of the opioid crisis includes the families ripped apart and, for many communities, a generation of lost potential and opportunity. This epidemic is a national health emergency. Unlike many of us, we've seen in our lifetimes, nobody has seen anything like what's going on now. As Americans, we cannot allow this to continue. It is time to liberate our communities from this scourge of drug addiction. Never been this way. We can be the generation that ends the opioid epidemic. We can do it.
Well, that is right. And, of course, what you start with is handcuffs and an FBI task force in all of the glass buildings in Connecticut that sell drugs. Oh, I'm not talking about the street gangs. They're low level compared to the pharmaceutical companies that make OxyContin. Can anyone explain to me why the manufacturer of OxyContin is not in handcuffs? I can answer the question. Because their names are on the board of every museum in the world. They bought their way to the top, as has been said many times and many different ways. In America, what is red in the first generation becomes red, white, and blue in the third generation. In other words, that built on blood then becomes patriotic 2 generations later. It's sickening to me that those who manufacture OxyContin are not stopped. Tell me why, if let's say they're making 1 billion, let's say there's 1 billion prescriptions for drugs a year. I'm making up a number. 1 billion prescriptions for OxyContin, and each prescription contains 10 pills, so that's 10 billion pills. And the company that makes it is making 30 billion pills. Tell me why the family in charge of that company is not in prison. Answer. Why? Take a look at your Congress and you'll have your answer. That's all. What do you think a lobbyist is? Now, you may not know this, but I've known it from the beginning, and I boasted about it from the beginning. No, it's not about. Listen to this, because he's the only president in modern American history who can say this. Wolf Blitzer, you crawling insect, you. Listen to 05, you crawling insects in the media.
I learned myself. I had a brother, Fred. Great guy. Best looking guy. Best personality. Much better than mine. But he had a problem. He had a problem with alcohol. And he would tell me, don't drink. Don't drink. He was substantially older, and I listened to him, and I respected, but he would constantly tell me, don't drink. He'd also add, don't smoke. But he would say it over and over and over again. And to this day, I've never had a drink. And I have no longing for it. I have no interest in it. To this day, I've never had a cigarette. Don't worry, those are only 2 of my good things. I don't want to tell you about the bad things. There's plenty of bad things, too. But he really helped me.
So here is a president who has never had a drink and doesn't smoke, who should be a role model if we had, other than what we have in the media, which are sewer rats disguised as objective reporters. It's sickening to me. He is a great role model, but because of the sewer rats in the media, they turn him into Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini. You throw in anyone you want. And that is because most of the people in the media are drug addicts. I don't think you understand to what extent drug addiction pervades the media. So I wanted to go back to a more fundamental question, and this week we had some pretty hot questions on the show, which were, why is America fascinated with gangsters? Are you a sugar baby? Where is the Albert Einstein or Jonas Salk amongst the Jewish people of our time? Who embarrasses you the most in your own ethnicity? Why are we seeing God mentioned more than ever before? What happened to logic and reason on college campuses? And what has Trump done to make you think you hate him so much? Those were the questions that caught fire on the show this week. America is fascinated with mobsters for a good reason, and the good reason is that we're all powerless, and the law, unfortunately, doesn't often work for us. We feel that we get screwed in a court of law, and we lose even if we're right, and usually the bad guys win. Not always, but usually. If they have more money, they're gonna bury you, and then we get infuriated and we want to get even. And so we go to these movies which fantasize some divine, fair-minded gangster who doesn't deal drugs, he kisses babies, he's a nice guy, he's family-oriented. They eat loads of veal parmesan on Sunday with the grandchildren. He goes to church, he supports the church, the fantasy that doesn't exist. So we go to the fantasy created by the Harvey Weinsteins about gangsters. When you think about who produces these movies, everything's a fraud. Virtually everything we see in the movies is fake, which doesn't mean we don't enjoy them. They're called entertainment for that reason. The problem is that when they start philosophizing and you believe them, then you're really in trouble and you're really screwed up. In other words, if you believe that there's such a gangster in the world, okay, you're living in fantasy. So if you actually believe that, you're living in fantasy. So where does that leave us? It leaves us in the everyday world. That's all. Here we got okay, this is good coming now. What I'm going to lead to now is to the politicians, who are not different than gangsters in many ways, other than the politicians generally don't use muscle. that I know of to get their way, but they're just as corrupt as most politicians. Most politicians are just as corrupt as mobsters. We all know that for a fact. And some of them are smoother at it than others. And as I said yesterday, and I will say it again, I don't think it's that controversial a statement, but it's worth repeating for the sake of today's discussion on the program, that while a criminal has a gang of soldiers, a nation's leader has an army of soldiers. Now, tell me what the difference is. If you don't have to point it at Trump, because it doesn't just apply to Trump. It applies to any president we've ever had, whether it is a fair-minded Middle Westerner like Harry Truman, who dropped 2 atomic bombs on Japan, killing hundreds of thousands, right? Okay, you could say that's a pretty big gang, the U.S. Air Force. You want to go into that viewpoint, you can. Now you got the situation of what we're talking about here. So you see what I'm getting at here. Where does it end? Tell me where that line is between a statesman and a criminal. I don't know where that line really is. And I think as America gets more and more as we devolve more and more with the lying media that makes everything up. I mean, Trump called it fake news. He was 1,000% right. However, where is the real news? If everything on the left is fake news, where is the real news? Tell me what the real news is. You mean those of us on the other side are all real? We're all honest? We're all Boy Scouts? We all have a halo? We're all good? That is such garbage, you have no idea. And let me tell you something else. You're not going to like what's coming in 2018. But when you find out what we are digging into about those on the right side of the aisle who pretend to be holier than the cleanest Eagle Scout, but they're just like gangsters, your hair will stand up, and your whole world will spin on its head. I'm only going to hint at what I'm talking about. But as I speak, you're going to find out about, quote, conservative cartels in the media. You're going to find about conservative property owners who pretend that they're not property owners, who are collecting government money in housing while pretending they're anti-government. You're not going to believe what private investigators are about to that will expose in 2018. You're not going to believe it. And when that happens, you're going to have to rely upon something other than your faith in politics or your faith in being a, quote, conservative. What is a conservative? It's people who say that they're holier than thou. Are they really holier than thou when they run a cartel that blocks other people from an industry? Are they holier than thou when they lie to you about their streams of income and you can't even find it because it's in 5 front companies like Al Capone? Well, stay tuned, because in the next few months, you just might find out. And that's why I'm saying the lines that cross between criminality, politics, media are very, very blurry today. And that's why even electricians and cab drivers in New York City are religiously addicted to the Savage Nation. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. It is 53 minutes after the hour. This is the Savage Nation. Now, not too long ago, there was a Fox News host, and a really good one, named Eric Bolling, who was accused by women of sexual harassment and fired by Fox. Shortly thereafter, his 19-year-old son died from a drug overdose. Bolling Jr. died hours after Fox News fired his dad over sexting claims. These lawyers and these women have blood on their hands as far as I am concerned. And so they released a toxicology report of this boy in order to smear the family even further. It's not bad enough they lost a son. It's not bad enough that the son died. It's not bad enough that Eric Bolling lost his career. Now they have to smear the son after he's dead by releasing his toxicology report. Let me ask you something. When have you last seen a toxicology report released of someone who died of a drug overdose? I've rarely ever seen this. To show you how far the media will go to cover up what they are doing to people's lives, they're now releasing an autopsy result of a boy who died, found unresponsive in his bed by a friend, just dead. And now they have to release a toxicology report to show you what drugs he was on. Look what they did to Eric Bolling. They killed his son, and they won't stop. After the son is dead, now they release a toxicology report on top of it all. You people in the media who are listening to this show, and I know many of you are and you do, you have blood on your hands. It doesn't matter whether he partied the night before. It doesn't matter that he smoked marijuana and he used coke and Xanax. What matters is that you killed him. That's what matters. You killed him by destroying his father. Now let's take some calls in the minute that remains. We have time for one call. Manny on line 5 from KSFO. Manny, what's your point, please?
Hi, good evening, Dr. Savage. Dr. Savage, I'm an atheist. I'm not one of those atheists that want to cram, atheism down anybody who has a faith. But I am also an atheist who loves theology. It's believe it or not, tomorrow.
I understand it completely. I think you're a perfect candidate to read God, Faith, and Reason.
I appreciate that, and I will read that book. I will order it.
I'm not here to convert anybody to anything. I don't care if a person believes or doesn't. It's between you and your own sensibilities. And my preface says this in one line. Listen to this, Mr. Atheist Manny. I never saw God, nor do I pretend to have any special insights. What you will see in this book are snapshots of God, not a complete film. And it's that simple. What you will see is one man's glimpses of God, images along the road. I do not represent myself as a theologian or a guru. There are no cheap thrills here for the spiritually bankrupt masses. It is my scrapbook of the highest power through dreams, memories, and stories, much like the ancient texts. Manny, you and everyone else who doesn't really believe in God are the ultimate audience for God, Faith, and Reason. Because I feel that if you see this man's glimpses, this man's snapshots, you will start to see your own. Manny, I hope you get a copy because we're sending it to you. It can be bought on BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com right now. Thank you for listening. Have a great weekend. With God's will and your listenership, I shall return on Monday.